be an investor in gold, silver, and XRP, and be aware that the old cabal is probably more than 80% destroyed. Focus on the dollar going away. Focus on the transition that I hope is seamless to minimize casualties of good people. Gold, silver, XRP, and a couple more. There was a really important press conference that Trump had in early March, and it was to update the crypto reserve. And he said it's going to be XRP, Solana, and a couple of others. And the press said, what about Bitcoin? I believe in the next couple months, silver is going to break. It's going to break in the next couple months. I usually don't talk about timing, but let me just say that it's going to be better than 50-50 chance silver breaks over 35 and begins to cause a series of problems in a domino before the summer's over, before we go back to school. Something is going to happen.
In today's news recap, Trump spurs questions about safety of Germany's gold in New York. The safety of Germany's gold reserves held overseas and in New York in particular, until recently mainly a talking point for the country's far-right party and gold bugs, is becoming a matter of public debate with Donald Trump back in the White House. The Bundesbank, Germany's central bank, has the world's second largest stock of gold at 3,352 tons. One-third of it is stored at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York for reasons dating back to the Cold War and the monetary system created in the wake of World War II. Those holdings have occasionally attracted scrutiny in the past, and the right-wing Alternative for Germany has embraced calls for a return of the country's gold back home. U.S. President Donald Trump's confrontations with long-standing allies over trade and security and his attacks on the Fed have revived the issue in recent weeks, and more mainstream voices have joined the debate. Germany's Taxpayers Federation sent letters this week to the Bundesbank and the Finance Ministry calling on them to repatriate the gold stored in the United States. Markus Ferber, an influential member of the European Parliament for Germany's ruling Christian Democrats, said the United States was no longer the reliable partner it used to be. Now we'll show you the best clips of the latest interview. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you do not miss out our daily recaps, and check goldsilverstacks.com to get your Stacker's Handbook, the ultimate guide to stack gold and silver, packed with strategies to trade the gold-silver ratio and get more ounces and build wealth over time, so you don't have to rely on market commentators to make your investment decisions. Enjoy the episode.
There's a lot going on, and gold is the future. And I'm excited by it all. But at the same time, I'm worried about something that I call the question of the seamless transition. What'll happen to credit cards? Will they all go away and be replaced by new ones, and every newsletter payment system goes to zero suddenly? Will credit for distribution, like in retail organizations, functions, will it go to zero and have to start over again? And we got 3 weeks of big fat nothing everywhere in the economy. Okay, there are a lot of questions, and Trump via Q has mentioned many times in the last 2 or 3 years, we're going to have it as seamless transition as possible. QFS is going to be a mirrored shadow system. And we're just going to walk it along and suddenly flip the switch, and we're running without any great interruption, which means seamless. And I just can't get a whole lot of confirmation on that, and therefore I can't be real confident. And I'm worried, like many people are. Back to silver, I'm very worried about Mexico, Andy. And let me just make a very unusual comment. I hope Trump creates a trade union with Canada and Mexico, because it would enable our country to benefit from the gigantic silver resources of Mexico and the gigantic diverse resources of Canada. And I had a consult call yesterday from a guy in Alberta, and he said, yeah, you're right, Jim. Alberta's oil and gas, Saskatchewan and British Columbia are metals. Not just gold, but copper and zinc and all kinds of metals. I said, okay, all right. And now you got a rift between the Canadian government, federal government, central government, and bankers. Screw the West and control the rest. That's one of their mottos, and it's disgusting. XRP is all through utilities, water, electricity. What's another one? Water, electricity, and gas. They have XRP payment, and it says right at the bottom, you got your receipt, satisfied by XRP transaction, blah blah blah. And UAE had a big contract, and they're using third-party payment systems. They've already broken ground on third-party payments. So I think what we're going to see real soon is like a contract between UAE and France, where 20% of the payments are in XRP. It's just a matter of time. I believe that we're going to see BRICS advance XRP in cross-border trade payment before the United States. And it's going to cause some unusual problems for the U.S. banks because they're trying to accumulate XRP using a Securities Exchange Commission shield that's not all that well hidden. It's a joke. Okay, regarding oil, it's eventually going to break away from the Rockefeller control. And a very interesting phenomenon is happening, Andy, you're probably all over this too. The dollar is going to become an accounting unit rather than a trade payment unit, an accounting unit. Well, what's the market for iron, cotton, gold, soybean, oil, gas? What's the market? What's the price? It's going to be priced in dollars and settled outside the dollar. But tethers and connections and strings to the dollar. And then that's already happened. Indian oil sales, they priced it in dollars and paid in rupee and paid in rubles. India is a really interesting country to watch.
In today's news recap, Bank of America is full of confidence it will hit 4,000 within the year. Commodity analysts at Bank of America are becoming increasingly optimistic about the outlook for gold. In a report released by BofA on Wednesday, the precious metals team led by Michael Widmer predicted that the likelihood of gold prices reaching $4,000 per ounce in the second half of this year is growing. This latest forecast from BofA is one of the most aggressive among major Wall Street banks. It is worth noting that in March this year, Widmer and his team had forecast that gold prices would reach $3,500 by 2027. However, this target was achieved in less than a month. Despite BofA's continued bullishness on gold, its analysts pointed out that a series of specific conditions must be met for gold prices to reach the $4,000 target. The analysts wrote in the report, to further push up gold prices, investment in gold needs to increase and jewelry demand must stabilize. Specifically, for gold prices to reach $4,000 per ounce, investment needs to increase by 18% year over year. They explained, this may sound like a lot, but purchases in 2016 and 2020 both exceeded this figure, indicating that it is possible. In addition, regarding other catalysts behind the rise in gold prices by the end of the year, BofA pointed out that geopolitical uncertainties triggered by global trade are the biggest driving force for gold price increases before the end of 2025, and concerns about the fiscal outlook of the U.S. government may trigger the next wave of gold price increases. The report stated, tariffs are an indispensable part of Trump's policy toolkit, but unfortunately, they also affect inflation expectations. This puts the U.S. Fed in a dilemma. A slowdown in economic activity coupled with upward pressure on the overall price level suggests that real interest rates will remain low, which also supports gold prices. Now we'll show you the best clips of the latest interview, but first, smash the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and check our new Numismatics handbook. Most stackers want to get active, but swapping their metals for dollars isn't an option. There's plenty of opportunities in the overlooked numismatics world. Mastering U.S. coins, key dates, and errors pays off by multiplying your ounces and capitalizing where others aren't paying attention.
I think it's going to be a second opportunity for those who missed out on Bitcoin and that 10,000 fold run. I think XRP as a minimum will be $200. And, there's going to be a BRICS contribution to XRP. And there will be a lot of discussion on whether the BRICS XRP is the same as the US XRP or the West XRP. The BRICS are going to bring a gold component to it, I think, before Ripple does. It's really important to know, not just for a feel-good experience, but we're winning, and we have practically won the war against the Octagon and the black nobility. We're raising the frequency of the planet. And here's a very interesting point to make. When you raise a frequency, a low frequency entity cannot coexist. That's very heavy. And I first heard that a week ago from a friend in Texas. I said to her, I need to let that sink in. That is very profound. We're elevating the frequency of the planet Earth, and we're getting a lot of exposures of things. Okay, it used to be like every 2 months or so we'd get a big exposure of something really big and ugly and nasty and important at a geopolitical level. Now we're getting one every 2 days. We're getting an acceleration of events. I think XRP is going to be a leader, but there are going to be like 3 others that will do very well and be multiples of 100-fold in their gains. I think we haven't talked about this, but just as a closing note, I believe in the next couple months, silver is going to break. It's going to break in the next couple months. I usually don't talk about timing, but let me just say that it's going to be better than 50-50 chance silver breaks over 35 and begins to cause a series of problems in a domino before the summer's over, before we go back to school. Something is going to happen. Silver is going to become a national security metal. And Mexican policy has confirmed that to a very strong extent. I heard that Russia, China are inviting Mexico to create a silver cartel. Mexico will be in charge of keeping all of Latin America, the Andean region, Ecuador, Chile, Bolivia, and there's one more, Ecuador.
Peru?
Peru, yes. I always forget one. It's hard to get them all. But Argentina's in there. But Mexico would be like the dog master, okay? We got these 4 dogs on a leash, or 5 counting Argentina. And if they make silver a national security item, metal, then all this talk about rare earth metals, it's going to be overshadowed by a factor of 10. Mexico is more than twice of all Latin America combined. Okay, it's amazing. I'm concerned about a silver cartel being formed. But my military guys don't really talk about their motive to corner the silver market. They do make mention that there's a lot of silver being destroyed with a cruise missile, something like 17 kilograms. I can't prove that number, but I keep hearing that number. And that doesn't validate the number. It only makes people more curious. Well, damn it, where's the proof?
What do you think of Willie's take? Do you agree with him? Will Bank of America go under? Is this just bollocks? Post in the comments section down below your honest opinion and share with the stackers if you believe a single word of all the rumors he talked in today's episode. Thanks for watching now. Check this video right here because it's a perfect fit for you, and I'll see you on the other side.